Hello and welcome back to Scrap Academy. Today I'm going to share an adhesives video for our theme of the week, and this lesson is going to be about layering and adhesives. So I'm going to talk about some different types of adhesives that you could use for layering. I actually have tons here, and I've included some that perhaps don't fall into the adhesive category, I don't know. So first off we have the glue gun. Always useful. I don't particularly use this to stick much down, just if it's kind of folded or concertinaed kind of paper, like a fan shaped paper, where I need to hold it and for it to be stuck straight away. So I will occasionally use a glue gun. I'm actually going to use a glue gun today for one of the layers. Again, you can just adapt and change things depending on what you have. Double-sided sticky tape is what I prefer to use. You might prefer, or you might use yourself, or see other people talk about using tape runners, but you can get different thicknesses of double-sided tape. I have two at the moment. I normally have a third size, but I've run out, which is like a really thin one. Foam tape is great for adding texture to layers of paper, and some texture behind your photos or behind embellishments, and I have three different ones to show as examples here. Foam tape, which is nice because you can kind of cut it to the size you want. These little foam pads, I love these because, to be honest, you can just use your scissors and you can just make them any size, you know, absolutely any size that you want, and they're really easy to handle. You can also get these ones which are like tiny little foam pads, so they're already kind of cut for you, less messing around in that sense. And you can buy them in different shapes, like you can get little circle ones and all kinds of, you know, different ones of those. If you want to stick some ribbon and things like that to your page, then this stuff is really good. This is red line tape, and it's a lot thicker than your average double-sided tape, almost like a jelly. I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of jelly-like to me. Yeah. Anyway, that's great for ribbon. That's all I really use it for, is for sticking ribbon down, but it's much stronger than the double-sided tape. So you could use it as much as you want, but generally it's a bit more expensive and you don't get tons on a roll. Wet glues are great for sticking down tiny embellishments and sequins. I use two different wet glues that are cheap and easy to come by in the UK, and that I don't have to decant into any kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Decant into any kind of like bottle with a smaller nib. So these ones come with a relatively small nib on them. So this one is the Tacky Glue by Hobbycraft. It's £1. It dries matte clear. This one dries a bit more shiny clear, but this is an acrylic glue. I love using this to stick down acrylic pieces. I don't know if it's because the glue is an acrylic glue, if it makes any difference. That was more an accident. I didn't realise that it was called acrylic glue until recently, but that's what I've always used it for. It's really strong. Actually hold my butter dish together when it broke. Yeah, round. I don't sound British. My butter dish. Oh, foam, not foam dots, glue dots are great as well. I love using these to stick down like flare. I think they're really good for that. You can just kind of stick the glue dot to the back and then pop it on your layout. So, and it kind of holds it straight away. And I think it's a little bit stronger for that than the double-sided tape. I don't know how long these last before they, you know, dry up and everything on your layout falls out or falls off. I can't really comment on that. What I can say is that for me, double-sided tape is better than smaller tape runners, which I have found when I use them in the past have resulted in some of those layouts falling apart. So I think it depends what tape runner you get as to how successful you are with it. I'm just going to talk about some non-traditional kind of adhesives, or like ways that you can kind of attach things to your paper. So you can use staplers. I love this Tim Holtz tiny attacher. You don't have to buy one of these, obviously. You could use smaller, if you want smaller staples. You can buy like the little tiny office staples or staplers, but you want to be able to kind of get it through your page or through some different layers, and they tend to be a bit short in the neck, if that makes sense. But this one's quite good because it gives you a little bit of length to get into a page or get into some layers of paper. My hair's stuck to that, gross. Brads, these are great for holding down little embellishments, particularly if they're flowers. I use these loads to attach flowers to my page. So I make little paper flowers, and then I put a little brad in the centre, like the centre of a flower. These are essentially split pins, Brad's split pins, same difference. Let's go. Paper clips, these are great, particularly for layering, what we're going to be doing today. Then paper clips can hold some of those paper layers together and add a bit of interest to your layout as well. And washi tape I think is quite good. I mean, I was thinking it's sticky, it's a tape, so I'm including washi tape in this. It is an adhesive product. And another thing that's good, and I wish I had, no, I just can't find them. I had some cardboard ones of these that were in beautiful colours. I know they're here somewhere, so I just need to search harder. But these are just photo corners. So you can use photo corners. These are clear ones. Obviously, they wouldn't stand out on your layout, but you can use them as an accent piece as well. And you can get photo corners in lots of different colours. So you can attach a photo to your layout using these like little adhesive corners. So for the layering that I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to use lots of different paper types to layer up behind a photo, and I'm going to do a little bit of mixed media in the background. And I thought it would be really fun in the background to try and make a stencil out of my glue from my glue gun. So I watched, I think it's the Frugal Crafter on YouTube, and she made loads of different stencils out of a glue gun, and she just had a baking sheet, of which I happen to have on my desk all the time. This came from Sainsbury's, but it's just great for mixed media because I can wipe it down, and I think it's cute because it has the pink bit. But and I just squeezed out my glue out of my glue gun on the mat, which it kind of stuck to at the time, but then it just peeled right off when it dried. It was great. All you want to do if you are going to make a pattern like this one, firstly, if your glue gun is as terrible as mine and you're not a professional glue gunner like I'm not, then you want to accept it's probably going to look a bit wonky, so you might want to go for wonkier shapes, but you want to make sure that every shape in your stencil is touching so that you can just lift it up easily, and you've not got loads of different parts to your stencil. So I'm going to be using that. So I'm starting here with the stencil, and I'm just placing it in the centre of a piece of white cardstock, and I'm using 2 spray mists, one in a pastel blue shade and one in a pastel like kind of minty green. And I've chosen these 2 colours because they go really well with the photo, which I'll show you in a minute. But I just start by spritzing them onto the page. I didn't want the background to be too heavy with the white, so I was quite happy to have obviously quite a spread of splatters going out around the edges and the spray mist going out toward the edges of the page. If you want to have more white space, then you might like to use a smaller stencil perhaps. So I'm just dabbed away any really big puddles of liquid because I didn't want them to run under the stencil, but I'm really pleased with how this came out. And it's crazy and super cheap to think that it was made with a glue gun. So now it's dried, I have my picture here and a selection of different textures of paper. So there's some different textured paper there that I had just trialled a load of Lindy's kind of brightly coloured magical powders on. I was just seeing what they look like on different textures, so I thought I would use those. I've also got some 6x6 scrapbook paper kind of pages of pattern paper, and I've also got some Project Life journaling cards as well to use as part of these layers. So I'm still new to layering and trying to get better at it because it doesn't come naturally, I would say, to me. So in order to kind of understand it a bit better, what I did was spend some time on Pinterest just looking at layouts that I liked that had lots of paper layers and thinking about what it was about those paper layers that I really liked. So I liked, or kind of noticed in these paper layers, that I preferred it when there were lots of different textures, when there were kind of ruffled edges. So you can see there's a perforated edge at the top there where the branding tab came off of that small piece of paper, and then I ripped aside, and then here I'm using some rounded corners from a journaling card which I've cut in half so I can spread it across either side of the photo. And here I have just some painted white card, and I've just ripped it down the middle to add another texture. When I get to this point, I think I kind of like how it's looking, so I'm going to go with sticking this part down. My advice for sticking it down when you're layering is to use double-sided sticky tape or your kind of tacky glue. If you want a bit more movement time, then I would use the tacky glue, and that gives you a bit of wiggle room between when you stick the paper down and you move it to the position you want it in, whereas you don't have that luxury with the double-sided tape. But stick it down and make sure you stick it quite central, so you have a lot of room around the edge that's not stuck down, because that enables you to just tuck more things into the paper layers as you go. So if you decide you want to add an additional layer, you can kind of tuck it in the gaps between those pieces of paper. At this point, you'll see I just added some foam tape, and I personally think the layers look nice when there's a bit of dimension to them, so adding foam tape just gradually throughout the layering process just gives it pops of interest and dimension that adds a bit of shadow and texture to a layout. And yeah, as I said, if you've got a piece of paper and you want to see it on both sides of the photo but it doesn't quite reach, then just cut it in half. No one can see what's going on in the background. Or if you really like a piece of paper, you can kind of gut it out the middle, so that you could use some of the smaller pieces a bit later. So here I've got some vellum, and again this was just vellum that I painted on. Vellum is essentially just kind of tracing paper, so again it's quite cheap to come by, and painting on it yourself gives you some different colours, and it does tend to warp a bit, which added an additional kind of texture to the layout. So I'm just kind of twisting my layers around and thinking about where I want it to go. Again, I like the rougher finish in layering. I feel like from what I looked at, the more kind of square it was and the more ordered it was, the less I personally liked it. So I think it's like if you're thinking about layering yourself, then you want to think about your style and the kinds of things that you like to look at. I mean, Sue's fish is a great one to look at for different kind of layering techniques, and she tends to kind of ruffle and use scraps of paper and even things that you might consider to be rubbish, like old pieces of packaging and wrapping paper and all kinds of things like that. So there's plenty of things you can use to layer that have lots of different textures that add a lot of interest when actually your layout is really focused just on that central area. So I've just added a little paper clip because I think I'm going to try and put a tiny kind of word sticker up the top there, and I want it to look like it's being held in place. I've torn up this again, another Project Life card, and it has these really cute hearts down the side that would make kind of a good journaling spot, but I decided that I wanted to have just the little hearts peeking out, so you've just got a little bit of interest. So you can think about things like that. If you've got a border punch, you could easily punch details into some of the layers. If you've recently punched a load of shapes out of a piece of card, if you've been using like a star punch or a heart punch or something, you could use the negative space that's kind of left behind as a layer as well, so that you're not wasting those pieces of paper, and they can add those cute little bits of interest that I think really make the layered look like what it is, I suppose. Here I've used a page from a book which I had painted. So this is just a book actually from when I used to teach anthropology, and I don't know what happened to the cover of the book, but it got absolutely ruined and it was sticky. How weird is that? So I just kind of ripped the cover off, and I've just been using the pages inside of the book, which are all about belief systems. So there's things in there about Wicca and energy and all kinds of stuff. It's really interesting actually, but anyway, beside the point. So it's got some fun kind of phrases and words, not that you can see most of it by the time the layering is all done, but it just adds another bit of texture. And then here I've just got kind of an odd end from, what am I trying to do now? Oh, I'm just sticking these little bits down. So you might just have to kind of reach in with your double-sided tape and kind of stick bits down as you notice that they're still kind of flopping about. yeah, so here you can see I've got the end of that really pale blue paper that I tore off the top originally, and then here I've just got like a scrap of a teal colour, and I've just cut a fishtail kind of banner to the one end of it, and I'm just going to have that kind of poking out of the side there. And here I'm just using my wet glue because it's just going to give me a bit of wiggle room so that I can kind of decide where I want it and how I want it to face. And as I said before, the double-sided tape gives you less of that option. Here I've made a pattern paper out of some washi tape, so I've just stuck the washi tape to some white card, and I think this yellow kind of goes with my colour scheme. So I'm just folding the piece of card in half and creating another fishtail banner, and I'm going to stick that in there kind of behind that teal one. This one I'm just going to double-sided kind of sticky tape down because it's going on the back layer anyway. And then I'm going to add some adhesive I'm going to staple it. So I'm just stapling that little piece of what is essentially rubbish onto the back side of this, and I'm loving how this looks. So I think my layering is pretty much done. I've got here a title, or kind of the start of a title, which is a giant, what was a wood veneer word, and I painted it in black and then layered over the top, which I didn't mention in my intro actually, glossy accents, which is a glue that dries very shinily, so you can add a shine to things. So like that giant love, I painted it in black acrylic paint and then added the glossy accents over the top to give it that shimmer and shine. Now I've cut out a label that I'd previously stamped and had just been kind of sitting on my desk in a yellow colour, and I'm adding some Tim Holtz tiny letter stickers to spell out the rest of my title, which it says love, tea and cuddles. What am I going to do now? I'm finding my tiny word sticker that's going to go at the top here, and I have this pale blue one. I think it says something like it's all in the details, or it's the little things, or something like that. I think it might be it's the little things. And I just stick that at the top, and then I'm adding the what's that called, paper clip, just so it appears to hold it down. Obviously you can use it to just hold it down if you want to, but because it was a sticker, it held itself down. And then I'm adding another little sticker there that says smitten, because it's a cat and I'm obsessed with my cats. And then I'm adding a staple to that just to bring some more of that silver from the paper clip and the other staples I've got the other side of the page, and just bring those to the other side of that layer. And then I'm not going to add any more foam tape because it feels quite thick, where the foam tape, a couple of layers of it, are going through that layering. So I've just stuck it down with some double-sided tape. And because the photo is quite thick off the page where I had added the foam layers in the layering, that means that half of the love I've had to stick some double-sided tape behind, and the other half is just glued to the photo to make it kind of level. Then I am just using these tiny little brads here, and I'm going to kind of poke holes in them and add them to the layout. And I'm also finding some washi tape to use here as well. And I've got this really nice like black and white washi tape, and I think because of the giant love lettering, that the black and white will look really nice. So although I got out a few other ones, I'm just going to use this black and white washi, and I'm just going to tear it down the middle. And I've got this really nice floral piece that I'm going to add to this side to bring some more of the black across the layout, because it's very concentrated obviously within Olive, my cat, and the word love. And then I'm going to tear a bit more at the top here, and I'm just going to add it kind of on a slant to this top right hand corner, left hand corner. I'm so bad at my left and my right. It's terrible, isn't it? And I'm just ripping a few little pieces off, and I'm just going to add one of those little rip pieces underneath the little label at the bottom here. And then I'm going to use a pokey tool here, just a sharp object, object implement that's going to poke some holes in my page, and I'm going to stick my brads in to add some detail, and I've done the same in the top right corner as well. And I'm just trying to get a triangle shape at the top and triangle shape at the bottom, because the triangles always look good, in my opinion. Okay, and I'm going to add a little acrylic heart up the top here, and I'm just going to use some of my acrylic glue to stick that down, and that's a nice black shiny heart, so it looks lovely near that, or kind of in a diagonal away from the word love. And then I'm just adding the final touches, which is going to be some journaling, and then a few tiny wood veneer hearts at the top. And those little wood veneer hearts, I'm going to add some black paint and some glossy accents to them, so that they kind of blend in with the rest of the layout, which we're going to see me do now. So I'm just using plain black acrylic paint and just kind of slapping it on, really. And then I'm going to use the glossy accents. My advice would be don't shake glossy accents, because it introduces air bubbles, and then when you've got air bubbles, you're going to have an uneven kind of texture on the gloss finish. And finally, I decided to add a little bobbly bit. So I had to pause the video and I tidied up just while that glossy accents dried before I could stick the little hearts onto the layout. So I'm using the red line tape. It's called red line tape, but I don't think I mentioned before, it's not red tape. It peels, the backing plastic peels off, so it's clear tape, but it's quite good at holding kind of fabric down. I think it's really strong for that. I'm just adding that, kind of poking out to add a final texture to my layers, and then I'm going to use a tiny drop of PVA glue to finish off by sticking my hearts down, and then that is the layout complete. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, and check out my kind of various social medias that will appear at the end. Thank you, and bye bye.